Hello. So the first of the Magic School Bus episodes that I watched last night, the Magic School Bus Hops Home, uh, features what might be the first Pokemon uh, ever on English-speaking television, because Wanda has a bullfrog that she named Bella, and the bullfrog says Bella. It doesn't croak; it just says Bella, like a Pokemon saying its name. And uh, so, but it's a bullfrog, so I guess bullfrogs then are Pokemon. Except it's not saying bullfrog; it's saying Bella. But it's what the important thing is that it's not saying croak. It's weird. And then at the very end, another bullfrog hops onto the screen and says Herman, and that one was not named by a human, so perhaps Bella the bullfrog told Wanda to name her Bella. But anyway, that's the world that we're in with the Magic School Bus. So the lesson, the lesson plan, pre-field trip for this episode is the kids are all bringing their pets, and Arnold, of course, has a pet rock, to class in their cages or jars or wherever they're kept in, because the class is studying habitats. And they, of course, make reference to when Wanda is trying to make space so that Bella has a lot of space for her habitat. Arnold says that she's invading his habitat as a reminder to the viewers that we humans have habitats as well, and that our habitats are just like the animal habitats. They have the things we need, etc. So Arnold, though, it's another Arnold Wanda kind of playing off each other, and if the girl is pushing you around and stuff, it means she likes you, sort of thing. He relents and he gives up his desk, and he's introduces Bella to his pet rock while Wanda is setting things up, and then Wanda summons him over. And in the meantime, he has opened the window for some reason, perhaps fresh air, I guess. He wants to give the frog and the rock fresh air. And of course, just like the chocolate frog in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, the Bella jumps out the window. So then that is the quest that they find themselves on. That's the field trip that they take. And because Wanda insists we have to go find her frog, and Miss Frizzle says, "Why don't we make it a?" And then the bus picks up with a couple of beeps instead of her saying field trip. So already episode 5, they're switching it up. She doesn't have to be the one who says field trip. The bus can say field trip, and we know what it says. So in search of a frog, the bus turns into a frog, and when the bus transforms, of course, it does very rapid spinning, and seems to take many different shapes on its way to its final shape. And this, because it is a magic bus, does not result in anybody getting nauseous. However, it doesn't have the right kind of suspension or whatever to prevent Ralphie from getting nauseous when it's hopping along as a frog. So that seemed a bit disjointed, but again, it doesn't have to make sense. It's the Magic School Bus. So they're searching for this frog, and so they think, well, what do we got to find a frog? We got to find what the frog eats, so they go in search of bugs. And in the meanwhile, they meet a cat on the way to the bugs, and the cat becomes something of a threat. They hop, and in the meanwhile, they're watching the bugs, and the bugs are in their habitats with the things that they need. So then they hop into a tree. Probably that's the magic part of the bus, and not. I know that frogs can climb trees, but the bus hops really, really high into a tree to escape the cat that has come after it. And I wrote down just that when they're all out looking for the frog, they're calling Bella, Bella, and I wrote that some of them, it reminded me of Marlon Brando's yelling Stella in A Streetcar Named Desire, which I only recently saw for the first time. I'd read the play, but I had never seen the movie or seen the play on stage. So the in something that I don't remember this episode very well, and so I didn't remember that this happened in it. Um, a blue heron flies over, and that is uh, Ms. Frizzle's. To her, that indicates, oh, we're on our way, because they had just determined, having seen uh, a river, a flowing river, and they thought, this is not, a frog can't live in this. It would be dragged. It would be too hard for a frog to live in moving water. We need to find quiet water where the frog could move around and lay its eggs. And then the blue heron, great blue heron, uh, flies over, and Miss Frizzle says that indicates quiet water, because blue herons, uh, like the one that frequents the pond near my parents' house, they like quiet, still water that they can creep through with their long, thin bird legs as they look for frogs to eat. So they follow the heron, and they find a little pond, and they find, therefore, Bella. And so here is the part where Wanda has to come to the conclusion that this is Bella's true habitat, not Wanda's blow-up mini pool and whatever else she has, and the little frog, Beanie Baby, or stuffed frog that she has for Bella. That this is the habitat that Bella should be in. And the heron almost eats her on the way to her realizing this, but that only makes it harder for her, because she thinks, well, the heron's going to eat Bella if we leave it here. But then she finds that she cannot find Bella, and she thinks, oh, well, if I can't find Bella, the heron can't find Bella. And somewhere in there, she goes swimming, searching for Bella, and Bella is, doing the frog swim through the water, and then Arnold is swimming after Wanda, and they are keeping up they are smaller than the frog at this point, but they are keeping up with the frog swimming, and maybe that's the magic again, but it doesn't seem like they should be able to compete. If they're smaller than the frog's legs should be much more powerful and faster swimming than they are. So Wanda then decides, well, Bella's got to stay here, so she wants to stay, and of course that can't happen. So that is when we meet Herman, and she realizes, oh, well, Bella's doesn't need me. She needs her true habitat. She needs this Herman frog. And actually, Herman jumps, and this is how maybe another indicator to her that she doesn't have a monopoly on Bella. Herman appears but doesn't speak, and she thinks it's Bella, and then he says Herman, and then she's, oh, it's not Bella, it's Herman, it's another frog. So, and then Bella appears, hops onto a lily pad next to Herman, and it's just like Wanda and Arnold. So that's pretty much the episode. At the end, the class puts together a very large kind of robot puppet frog for Wanda to replace Bella, which is only a little weird. And then the only thing I wrote down about the post-story little bit, I guess these are producers. These characters, after the action of the Magic School Bus, the characters are producers on the show. Because the person in the phone this time said, have I reached the producer of the Magic School Bus? And she says yes. So all I wrote down is that she seems to be camping. She's in a tent. She's near the pond where Bella lives, I guess. But she's got all these computer monitors and TV monitors, so she's, I guess, working remotely. I wasn't quite sure why. I mean, the monitors are all there. There usually are monitors in these things so that scenes from the episode can play over the narration of but why did this happen, and why did this happen? That shouldn't have happened that way. So that's just, so I guess all these characters are producers. But in the meanwhile, onward to Magic School Bus Meets the Rot Squad, which is the episode that Netflix has been trying to play every time that I have pressed play on the Magic School Bus, because I guess I'd watched all the previous 5 episodes, and then I'd stopped at that one, and Netflix knew that I had stopped at that one, and Netflix wanted me to start with the thing I hadn't watched yet. So now it'll be interesting to see Wednesday night I go to watch the episode after this, if it still tries to play Meets the Rot Squad. But this one I remember being a very well, memorable but influential one, because it's like I knew that sharks ate fish and that tuna fish came from the sea, and I kind of knew stuff about space and frogs and food chains, etc. when I saw those episodes, but I hadn't gotten to decomposition in the science classes, at least not in a way that had left a mark. So this one was my first time. Like I knew from, well, and this is something that I wrote down in my backyard when I was growing up. There was an old log that was rotting and decomposing, and it had these little kind of, it looked like a maze or some kind of foreign writing that were grooves that had been eaten out of the wood and in a pattern by little bugs. And all I knew about this thing was that if I lifted logs like that, I might find salamanders. And I guess I saw the other bugs, but I wasn't really interested in them. But this episode about a rotten log that Wanda wants to get rid of, and there's a whole thing with that, but it showed me what was going on in this what was really going on a much smaller scale level in this area where I played as a kid, and gave me a new understanding of that. So that's why it was impactful for me. So the episode starts with a smell contest. Who can bring in the worst smelling? It's the most disgusting, grossest rot smell competition. Who can bring in the worst smelling rotten thing? And Wanda wins with the thing, like a plastic container that you save food in, but apparently it had been in the back of her fridge since she was born. So she wins with that, and her prize is a baby tree from Ms. Frizzle. And she decides to plant the tree in a vacant lot near her house. Now, I don't know, she doesn't say that she owns the lot, but she wants to plant the tree there, and apparently there's no one who's going to protest. But on the way to the lot, in the bus, the kids are saying, oh, we should put up a restaurant, we should put up a theme park. They're talking about what to do in the lot that I don't know, none of them own, but they're going to build on it. It's going to be a school project. More fantastical, I think, at this point in my life than the bus shrinking down small enough to go into the rotten log. The idea that the kids are going to build an amusement park on a small lot on a residential street that they don't own. But that's not something that little kid me thought about. And so Wanda sees, she gets there, there's the rotten log in the way of where she wants to put the tree, and she says we have to get rid of the log in order to put the tree there. And so she sees a sign for, I didn't even write down, but Larry's the name of the guy who gets rid of rotten logs. Log and Larry, maybe? I don't know, I don't remember. Oh, and by the way, another cameo, Ed Begley Jr. voices Log and Larry, or whatever his name is. Let's see if I can find that very quickly in his television credits. Television credits in the mid-90s here. The Magic School Bus. Is the Magic School? Oh, there it is. Log Away Larry. Okay, so that actually, looking on Wikipedia, worked that time. So is Log and Larry? Is that what I said? That would be great. Log Away Larry. Okay, Log Away Larry. So Wanda sees the poster, calls the guy, says, "Yeah, I'll be there soon." And then the bus, and Ms. Frizzle probably knows what happened, but then the bus gets small, goes into the log, and they find all the little creatures and the bugs. The log is a home to a family of rodents. It's food for all these bugs, and then the bugs produce waste. And unlike with the digestion episode, they actually show the poop coming out of the little critters that are eating the log, and then they show the other little critters that come and eat the poop. So Magic School Bus was not shy about that sort of thing. Well, they might have been shy about it coming out of a human, but not as a general rule. And then Arnold says at some point, Arnold doesn't want to do anything with the lot, which is pure Arnold, but also the right conclusion that they all ultimately come to. And he says, if you leave nature alone, it will do just fine. And I turned to the malevolent supernatural force I live with, who was watching with me, and said, did Arnold just say life finds a way? And so Arnold becomes then Ian Malcolm, the Ian Malcolm of the Magic School Bus. And so anyway, then they go into the log, and Wanda, meanwhile, does not say, I've hired some guy to, and where does she get the money? Is this guy just going to come and do it for no money? But she never says, I hired a guy to come and destroy this log that we are now in until the very end. So she leaves, but she's constantly trying to get them out of the log. But, when you're in a log, it's really, really interesting, and you're not going to want to leave unless you've got a very good reason, like you're going to die. So let's see. The kids gradually, they see all these things, what the log in its rotting state does for various animals and critters, and they gradually decide, yeah, let's not build anything here. Let's just let the log rot, and it will be good for the tree to be planted near the rotting log, because the rotting log will become food for the tree. So they gradually join the Leave It As It Is club. Arnold is handing out buttons, which presumably the Magic School Bus supplied to him. Perfect rich soil from the log, and there's a little bit of wrapping. Then Larry arrives, and the bus supplies costumes to log gremlin costumes to the kids when Wanda comes up with an idea, now that she's converted as well, and the log gremlin kids climb up onto Larry and hang from the bus goes up onto Larry, and then they hang in front of him saying, don't do this to the log. They say, this might not be saying it to him, but they say nature recycling itself. That's what rotting is. They do this while the chainsaw is running, which is very, very dangerous. So I wrote down at Bagley Jr., and so that's how they resolve it. It's kind of like when they trick Arnold into drinking a soda. And they plant the tree, and then they bring the bucket of rotting stuff, because in the contest, they collected all the stuff into a bucket ultimately. They bring that bucket to the lot, and then they dump it around the tree to feed the tree. And this is, again, not their lot. Or maybe the class adopted the lot, like my second grade class once adopted a great horned owl at a zoo. So there's that. And in any case, they're feeding the lot. They're doing the right thing, but I feel like this is the same lot that then in Hey Arnold they turned into a baseball diamond. So there's a couple of things. In the post-show thing, I think it's the same producer character, and the phone call person points out that rotting takes place at a bacteria level too, and that it doesn't start with the bugs, and the person says Arnold wouldn't shrink down to the size of bacteria. So it's kind of like Arnold has it in his contract that he won't shrink down to the size of bacteria. It makes you wonder if Arnold is just as skittish about things as the character Arnold. Like if the kid who is Arnold in the show is maybe a little more demanding than the Arnold in the show. And then they say earthworms should not be ignored, and that's another thing about rotting and decomposition, that the show didn't have earthworms. So that's those episodes. Very amusing, very educational. One of them very important in my development as a science-loving young person. So next, going in the opposite direction, all dried up, they go into the desert, and then in the haunted house, which is a wonderful one, and with a cameo that I won't say it right now, but it's a cameo that even I could identify even at a very young age. Maybe not the youngest age, but quickly recognized that particular voice. So I'm going to watch those, and then I'm going to come back and talk about them. And in the meanwhile, seatbelts, everyone.